Okay, we're going to open up the Equalization Board meeting. Call the members, Joe. Aye. Levi. Aye. Chris. Meeting is open now. We will do the affidavits for us here and read the minutes of the previous meetings and get ready for a Zoom or a call that's supposedly coming into us at 8:50. Okay, we've got affidavits of Chris, Joe, Levi, and Renetta. Did you sign yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So, those are in order. We will need an affidavit from the company.
I have them.
You have those? Okay.
Yeah.
And who are they signed by?
Let's see here. Okay, so I have Jerry Wisdom, and then I have Wyatt Swinford,
Okay.
is the attorney for
And what is the name of the company that we're reviewing?
Red Line Energy.
Okay.
We got minutes we can approve.
Yeah. Okay, now, do we have the minutes of the previous two meetings, please?
We approved the 21, May 21.
Yeah.
Second.
Been made and seconded that we approve May 21 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And let's look at June 30.
There isn't anything in here about our discussion, Jerry and the minutes.
It's a summary. You don't have to do
Wait a
it.
minute, we're just taking. If you're good with it, okay. You know, our meeting went on for an hour, so.
I know, but it's a summary, it's not
No,
word
really
for
not.
word.
Okay.
This is a protest meeting. Maybe we should identify the fact that it is a record by, do we have that in there?
Yes, that it was recorded by Mary Ellen.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Good enough. Then we approve.
Second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That works good. Yeah.
Okay, we're caught up with our paperwork. Now we're waiting on the two people to call back in.
2 minutes,
Very
sure.
good.
Jerry will call.
I might run upstairs and make sure they have emailed me something, like a phone number to call them or something. I'll be right back.
Now, we will be gathering evidence. These people have, I believe, done this for, is this the third time? Fourth? We need to have evidence of the things that we, and if we don't get it, my suggestion would be that we adjourn and review what they tell us to make sure that we have correct information. I don't like them referring to this on the phone because we don't have hard evidence to look at it. And if they, present something like, we've had these guys for 4 years now, this will be the fourth time. And maybe we need to find out some real details about these guys.
So we're in court 4 years for this?
This one here for you.
Well, they haven't gone past the Equalization Board in the first 3 years.
Yeah, it's in court.
It's in court now?
It's waiting.
It's waiting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll have two votes.
all right. It's gonna,
Okay. All right.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna put you on
Deal,
speaker
I
now
mean,
and turn it up here.
I understand.
Okay.
All right, I'll listen.
We're gonna call Jerry real quick.
Jerry and Renetta. Okay, I'm gonna try and turn it up more.
This is from Wyatt. This packet is from Wyatt.
Okay, we got Redline on the phone and all of the board members are here. So I'm just gonna put the phone down in the middle of the table and we'll see what happens.
And this is from Jerry. And this one's from Jerry. There we go.
But I mean,
okay, it's gonna take us just a minute, Jerry, to review what we've got here from you. And do we have Redline on the line as well?
Yes, Wyatt Slippard, attorney on behalf of Redline.
Okay. Jerry, Wyatt Wisdom with Redline. We have, who is your rep now we're talking to with Redline?
Wyatt Slippard, attorney.
Okay. Where are you from, Wyatt?
I practice out of Oklahoma City, but I'm from Okima, Oklahoma.
Okay. Okay, Jerry, you on the line as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Where are you located today?
I'm in Tishomingo, Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, give us just a little bit to look your material over here, both of you.
Okay.
So you got one right there.
watch me.
Yeah.
Need to step out of the front door, you know.
Okay, yeah. What is the actual location of this? It's section 2, but in what township range?
Yes, Wyatt might have it, I can look it up here in a minute.
Okay,
If you take a look at my packet, toward the tail end, I've got the original 1002A from the OCC, and then a plat of it that my client prepared.
yeah, I'm looking at the plat here, but let me see if I can look at the 1002A. All right, we can get that information from that. 226 north, 17 west.
Oh, sorry, you were asking for the legal, I thought you were wanting to know exactly where in the,
No, I was looking for legal, yeah.
sorry, yeah, it's 2 to 26 north, 17 west.
Drilled in 9/30 of '83.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Okay, is this an increased density well, or is it the original well in the section? Do you know that?
As far as I know, this is the original Julian 2-1, still
Okay.
producing. I didn't see any increased density from this section.
Notice that 1002A has an increased density order number 238308.
Right, but this well is the one.
It's the original. Okay. Has there another well been drilled in this section?
Not that the OCC records reflect is still active or show on their, they switched their website over, but the mapping tool, I don't believe it, I looked at it, I don't believe it shows any flood wells, but it's not always 100% perfect.
Okay, when did Red Line acquire this well? Do you know?
I believe this was late 2019. Came from Contango.
Okay, what's the production on the well today?
If you take a look at my packet, I've included the excerpt from Pangea, which reports some of the volumes. I'll have to look at that. Give me just a minute. It's still producing. So in January of 25, it produced 100 MCF. 0.1, I think that's right, 0.1 MMCF. It's going to be about in the middle of my packet, page 6.
Yeah. Looking at that. Okay, we've had a little chance to go through. Anybody got any questions before we start questioning folks? All right. Jerry, we'll let you go first, since you're representing you have visually examined this well, your people?
Yes, sir. We recently went back out to the location to confirm that it actually was still in production. We did an inspection. This particular account is in litigation. It's been in litigation since approximately 2022. The pipeline in question is a 3-inch pipeline running from the northwest Brady Leopold. So I guess that's an attorney for them. But anyway, the valuation model that we have is valued like all the other pipelines throughout the county. So that you have in front of you the, get up this. You have our valuation sheet for there. So the property value is $23,157 is the market value as of 1/1/25. We have a 20% penalty for non-reporting. Assessed value 556. So the grand total assessed with penalty is $3,335. Again, it's the Julian 2-1 is 3,100 foot of 3-inch steel pipeline. There's an argument between whether this is gross production, under the gross production tax, or is taxable. In our assessment, we've taken the position, and with the other statutes, everything we have, believe that it is taxable.
Okay, when do you have gross product, you have the argument here that they're trying to use this as a gross production tax write-off. When did that start?
What is that pointed to, Mr. Olson?
2022?
I didn't understand, was you talking to me or to?
Oh, well, either one of you. Who knows when did the protest on this particular pipeline as gross production, was that initiated by Red Line, or was it prior to that with your predecessor?
Yeah, no, the Red Line, Contango had been paying the taxes. Before that, it was Capital and Gas that had been paying the taxes for the property. Then Red Line, we noticed them up after they did not report, and then Mr. Swinker's firm picked up the account and started filing a lawsuit. And the current one, I believe it's 2022, but Wyatt can confirm that.
2022.
Okay,
That's when we got Red Line. They had sold and we picked it up as Red Line,
okay.
and that's when they started.
Who originally had the easements on this pipeline? Was that recorded in the county clerk's office?
Yes, it was, I believe it was Capital and Gas, but I'm not sure, Mr. Olson, but I believe it was Capital that actually installed the pipeline itself.
Okay, it looks like the original was Share Allen Oil Corp. Was the driller of the well. So
Yes, that was the original. You say Shore Allen?
well, that's on the 1002A. That's the one who drilled the well, and it produced 823 a day on original production, and it's in the Tonkawa Oswego formation. And I'm assuming there has not been any revisions of the 1002A up to this point. So is it still producing from both zones?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay. Who were your easements from when you originally laid this pipeline? You have any idea? Did you acquire easements to go across these quarter sections here? I mean, if you're in the northwest 40 and you're going all the way to the northeast 40 to the pretty much to the section line. Do you have the easements now from that landowner?
I assume that's a question for me, for Redline. Or is that for Jerry?
So that'd be for you, Wyatt.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding is that line
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Was it laid under the leases or was it laid by way of easements? So, my next question would be, is this ownership of the surface? Because that landowner probably did not give an easement because they disagreed with some of the requirements or whatever. So you laid it under the lease, the original. So the original laying of this pipeline probably was then taken over by, who has the meter here? Is that you or Targa or who is it that owns the meter?
I can answer that, why, it's one of.
It's one of them.
One of them, okay. Just trying to get some information before we go through this. All right. Jerry, you want to go through your accounting here with us on this prospect?
Yeah, on the valuation,
Yes.
yeah, so it's a 3-inch steel pipeline, it's been curved, it's approximately 3,100 foot. And then the valuation, models is depreciated to a floor value of 20% floor. Fair market value, like I said before, was $23,357. Again, this is the same thing that we have been before the board for 22, 23, 24, and now 25. So this is moving along in the discovery mode, as far as I understand. I'm talking to the attorney. This is not the only county that Redline has challenged this ruling from the OTC. So they have lawsuits in Harper County, they have lawsuits in Beaver County as well. So they are pushing this to court to get some sort of determination that can affect the valuation across the state.
Okay. So the question here is who's responsible for the ownership of that line, from whether it's a flow line or whether it's taxable under the rules of the Corporation Commission?
Yeah, the flow line would be from the wellhead up to the separator. So the separator ends the gross production ruling, and then the pipeline flows from there. There was a old meter run at the site at one time, which was a check meter. The meter run is still there, but there's no meter, so it's post-production gas gathering line. So some people call them flow lines at times. They're actually pipelines, but really by definition, the only flow line is something from the wellhead to the separator, according to OTC rules and guidelines.
Okay, so there was an original meter at the location, and the location has the separator and all the facilities. And at some point in time, this meter was discontinued, and it was set at the position it's on right now, which is, I'm not sure if that's the section line. I assume this is a 640 spacing?
Yeah, the original 1 meter was set at the section line, and the other meter was a check meter at some point at the same time. They both would have been installed at the same time. They would have had a check meter at the location. The check meter, the meter run is still there that they're flowing through 2 to 3 inch pipelines. So that would have been at the beginning. I don't believe that One Oak was the original owner of that. It may have been Delhi, but I'm not sure. Back in the day, I think in 1997, Delhi was bought out by One Oak, so I believe it may have been Delhi's original meter set. But both the other meter runs there, so what we're talking about is the pipeline, is post-production gathering. The only thing that's going through that's natural gas.
So if it was a Delhi line, it would be high line pressure, and today, One Oak, what is your line pressure at the meter here? Is it low?
Yeah, I'm still here, I'm listening. Now, I don't have the exact pressure maybe like 40 pounds or something like that. One of them has a meter, but I don't have the meter at pressure.
Yeah, I believe, Chris, that that's a low pressure system for One Oak. There is no compression at the well site to boost that. So the fact that it's flowing, through there means that it's on the low pressure leg of One Oak.
Right, okay. Well, Delhi was not a low pressure to start with, that's the reason why I'm questioning, what's your line pressure today that you have to deliver your gas to.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you own 100% of this working interest, or do you have non-operator interest in this?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, we can research that here and see what the record shows, who the ownerships are.
I don't know if that's relevant.
Well, it is because somebody's gonna get billed for this, if it's a non-operator owner, somebody's gonna get billed. Moving to see if that has been part of their operational cost. Can they bill it out, or whether actually One Oak is taking responsibility for this well?
Well, the question here is that pipeline, is it gross production, or is it pipeline from there? So the question doesn't have anything to do with who pays for what.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah. The question here is, if they are doing the joint operating agreement on this well and there's multiple owners and it crosses different lines, some of these people in this section may have filed an easement while others might not have. And that's why they had to lay it under the lease, because one of these quarters, 40 acres, might not have been owned by the same people. So that's the justification for them laying this line to begin with and setting the meter somewhere. But the question is the One Oak taking responsibility from the well to this, or, and in many cases, they lay it under the lease, but then they assign it back to the company. And I've got several of those.
So what does that have to do with
Who owns the well, who owns the line? That's where it gets to. Who laid it to start with? Who paid the price to start with? Was it assigned to the non-working interest parties if there is multiple people?
what does that have to do with what kind of line it is? And how
It doesn't, it's the ownership of the line from the beginning. Who laid it? Who paid the
Okay,
price?
so who owns the line is what's your question?
Yeah,
Does Red Line own the line, or is somebody else?
right.
Because
And
whoever
since
owns the
it's
line,
changed ownership multiple times from
yeah,
2023.
but whoever owns the line now pays the taxes on it, correct?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who owned it whenever, but right now whoever owns the line now
Well,
has to pay the taxes.
the question is gross production. Can they claim gross production on this line that someone else laid and assigned it back to Delhi or whatever? That's where
Well,
we go.
the court has to decide that.
Yeah, well, that's why we are finding these facts out before we make a decision, because we're the first step.
I understand all
Finding
that, I
out.
understand all that, but the point is right now is from all records that we have,
Yeah.
Red Line owns it. Not even anything else, that's all the facts that we have right now, is that Red Line owns that line,
Yeah.
correct?
Well, they're claiming they own the line.
Well, that's okay.
To the
That's
meter,
fine.
from the well to the meter. Now,
Yeah.
the Corporation Commission has ruled if it is on location and you have a separator and all the facilities on location, which also they had a meter,
Which
on
they
location.
discontinued using,
so that would indicate that originally this line was assigned back to Delhi or someone else and they maintained it. Because, one, this well produced to start with 823,000 a day, so that's significant enough for Delhi to lay the line, but they might not have been able to lay it because they couldn't get an easement. And that's where we're coming from here. We're trying to determine, originally, was this line laid because they could not get easements? And that's where the county clerk will pick up the ownership of the line because there was an easement, but since there was no easements given, as far as we know, and we need to research that, then the history of this line says, who are the owners of it? Who pays the price of laying the line? And, or is this company came in 2019, it was a marginal well at the time, now they're trying to put it under gross production tax rather than paying the taxes on the line as was the history of it.
But right now, red line, I'm gonna go back to this. Right now, red line says we own the line. It's our line.
Yeah, but they're trying to get gross production tax applied to it rather than,
I understand that.
and what I'm trying to determine here is, did they start that way? Or did, once Redline picked it up as ownership in 2019, did they say, oh,
Well, they were paying, whoever owned it before red line were paying the taxes on it as,
yeah, the company was.
yeah.
So what's changed? Redline comes in and says, oh, well, we want to do it under gross
Yeah,
production tax.
and that's
It
why
might not have been done that way prior to this.
That's why we have turned it down now
Yeah, I
3
know.
or 4 years in a row.
But what we're trying to do is get to the evidence of when did this start?
With 2022,
Yeah.
when they bought it.
Before that, who paid the tax on it?
The company.
Company that owned it. Nobody complained until Redline bought it. All the rest of the
Well,
companies
who assessed it before?
Contango.
Okay. We're just trying to gather the
I
evidence on
think we
it.
gathered it.
No,
What?
he hasn't answered all the questions yet. He said he didn't know. This thing's been going on for
That's
4
right.
years. We need to come to a point of what is the evidence for them to consider it's a gross production write-off or whether it's a assessment write-off. That's the
Let's give him a chance,
question.
but I don't see any change or any reason why we should do it any different than we've been doing it. But let's let the lawyer talk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get
I
the basic information is, when did it start? Who paid for it? Because that goes back to, can you consider this a flow line, or is it, according to the Corporation Commission, taxable? That's the question.
So if every other company that had this line paid
We
their
don't know
tax,
that.
she knows,
Well,
they paid.
from the very beginning,
I don't know, that was before my time, I'd have to
Yeah,
go back
the
and find all the
83.
records, yeah.
83.
But there was never a protest, so, well,
We're just gathering information here, Joe.
I know.
So don't get in a hurry. We're
I'm
just
not
gathering this
I'm not in a
information.
hurry, but I don't see how the information you're asking for is relevant.
Can be later on if they protest it down there to the district court. Because we're the one finding this out.
Okay, whatever, just listen to it.
Okay. Jerry, have you got anything else to add as far as assessments today?
No, I mean, the history of this line is when we initially, did the project in 2001 or 2002. I was with Digital Lease Services. That's when we found the pipeline and all the other pipelines that weren't reported. So approximately, 2002, 2003, it was billed to Cabot Oil and Gas and they paid the taxes up until the other company, Contango, acquired it, or if there was another one. So this has been on the tax rolls for several years. Initially, whenever it was put in, my assumption is that they filed for production rules, guidelines, and then had to lay a line, they would follow $300. But, you know, that's way back. I mean, today, the other part here is, I think, kind of like Joe said, is we've already took the position that it is, taxable post-production gathering line. So we would continue with the same, would be my recommendation to affirm the value and the assessed value, and we move forward.
Okay.
See, it's 23 years, that's 23 years, if that thing was paid, they paid the taxes on whoever owned it.
Whoever owned the line.
For 23 years.
They're now they're trying to say,
Yeah, and
they don't want to pay tax
and we
because it's
say,
under
no
gross
way,
production.
that's not the way it is.
But we're finding out the facts. The previous company paid the taxes.
Yeah.
This company does not want
I
to.
understand that.
That's where we're at.
That's right, and I understand that if all the other ones did, just by common sense, if for 23 years the company paid them, you would have thought during that 23 years, some lawyer would have figured, you know what, we really don't have to pay these taxes, let's just appeal this deal. And we looked at it, and found all the facts we can find, Chris, and the answer is no.
Yes, but we have to have the evidence to show why they're wanting to
Well, there's
get out of.
23 years of it right there.
Previous companies paid it, this company doesn't want to.
I understand that.
That's the question.
Well, they're just trying to get out of paying taxes and all, that's a no-brainer.
All right, is that all you have for us, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, now we'll go to Red Line's representative here. What's your position?
Yeah, sure. Just to answer a couple of points there. I mean, I agree with Board Member Shirley that the ownership is not relevant to this question. Red Line owns the pipeline, the ownership of the well is not relevant. Red Line owns it. If One Oak owned it, that would be a One Oak issue, but Red Line's a producer, so. And, the board's comments are just trying to avoid tax. The issue here is double taxation, not avoiding a tax. They've already paid gross production tax on this well. That's supposed to cover the equipment to produce the well. This is an additional tax, a double tax. So that's our position here. And so I think it's totally unfair to try to characterize this as just trying to avoid some tax. They've already been taxed. They continue to be taxed with every MCF of gas that comes out of that well. Again, this thing's been in litigation. I've talked to Mr. Adams' counsel for Woods County. We are preparing to submit something to the judge so let the judge issue a decision on it. That was our discussion with Renetta on this. And so, I think that's what we need to do. This board, it can hear the evidence and make its decision, but it's trial de novo in the district court. And so it's wide open when it gets to court anyway. So I'm happy to go through all my packet and give you the legal arguments, but we continue to pay gross production tax on it. It's a small diameter pipeline that takes it over to the sales meter at One Oak. If you read the Oklahoma Tax Commission Business Personal Property Schedule, they define that as a flow line rather than a gathering line. It's owned by the producer. There's no way to produce a gas well without a pipeline. It's just not feasible to try to put it into some kind of tank. So you can't produce the well that way, and that's primarily all this well is making. It's almost exclusively gas. Makes a little bit of condensate, not enough hardly even fill up the tank, and a little bit of water. And so the question under the law is, one, is it currently being used? So current use is important, and is it necessary for production? And there's just no way to produce this well without a line to contain the gas. We're not the midstream company. Midstream company pays tax as soon as it hits that sales meter. No doubt about that. All their stuff is taxable. The board's really familiar with that. But this is a producer, and the issue is double taxation. So I just asked the board to go ahead and give us an order, and me and Mr. Adams will work with the court on getting a ruling on this.
Gross production tax is based on the production at the wellhead. And this is not at the wellhead. this is at a property line considerably a great distance away from this. The question is, are you billing the people separately, non-operator in this well, these wells, are you billing them for your taxes here? Or should this be, you're saying, we're not gonna bill anybody, we're gonna just say it's gross production tax, which the volume of the well today, you said was 100,000 to start with in January. Gross production tax is a set number on that production. You're not billing anybody for you want that covered under gross production tax. So you're not being double taxed. Gross production is the wellhead. If you own
Mr.
this,
Chairman, I disagree with you. That is just incorrect. The gross production tax is paid upon all the equipment to produce the well.
that's on location.
68. No.
Yeah, that's on location.
It doesn't have to be on location.
The commission says this is an extended flow line. And my
What
question is,
what regulation are you referring to of the commission? Because I've not seen any regulation that you're talking about from the Corporation Commission.
If you look at section 1001 of Title 68, under 710-10-8-2, it actually clearly stipulates what exempt properties are for the gross production tax. If you go to 710-10-8-2, number 6, I'm reading, flow lines going from the wellhead to the production units, separators, heater treaters, and lease production tanks, including flow tanks and water tanks, are exempt. Anything after the production unit is post-production gathering, so that's stipulated straight from the gross production chapter 10 and 1 tax. So that's the line.
Don't you read subsection D of that section?
Hang on, what? We can talk about that all there. I would agree with Wyatt that we've already got that in front of the courts and let them decide that. I don't think anything else is going to do there. So I'm just recommending the board just deny the protest and affirm the value, and we can move forward.
Mike, do you have anything else?
Nope, just ask the board to give us an order.
Okay.
I move we agree with Jerry.
My question here is, this was laid under the lease.
Do we have a motion? We have a lease.
We don't have a second.
Okay, we don't have a second.
You want to wait until we get some information here. Just hang on. The agreement here is this was laid under the lease and not by way of easement. So there is an ownership factor from the very beginning of this production of this well in '83 as to who owns and who is responsible for this line from the well location to eventually where the meter is set. That is the question, right? You agree with that?
I mean, what I guess is, are you implying that if the producer owns the line, that it's gross production? Because that's what I take from your question.
No,
That's the situation.
my question is, did the previous owners, did they pay the tax, or did One Oak or Delhi pay the tax on this line? Because they would have had a meter. And when did the gross production thing come into play? And that appears to be just during the time that you had acquired the line. That argument doesn't appear to me, from what your testimony is, that this question of gross production has never occurred before. Is that correct?
I don't know. The assessor has those records, I guess, and I would not doubt that Contango probably was just paying the bill because it's so small that it doesn't justify it. You have to have somebody who actually wants to address the issue on principle because the tax is just so small. And so I'm not surprised somebody else didn't protest at all, but I don't think that has any bearing on what the use is as of today.
How many wells do you guys operate, red line?
I don't know. They got at least 50 from Contango.
Well, I have some wells in Woodward County that red line operates in a very similar situation to this, but this is the first time protests have been made in Woods County, I believe, on this particular well concerning gross production versus ownership of the line. Is that correct?
When they acquired it in 22, I mean, yeah,
The part
22.
19.
Well,
Yeah.
22 is when
Yeah.
we got notification.
So, anything else from either one of you before we make a decision here?
No, sir.
Move or deny. I mean,
You have a motion
we agree with Jerry.
that we accept the assessor's value of this line
Right.
being charged to red line.
Yep.
Okay. You have a second? Made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We accept the assessor's line value here. Any other questions, guys?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. All right. Thank you, fellas.
I don't think
Now, I want to give you some information here. This company
Thank you,
is
Jerry.
attempting
I don't
to
think
get out. They're all over. They didn't acquire this till 19.
No.
This company's trying to get out of paying taxes, and nobody has paid them. The company has paid them before. So the question we're trying to get is, and he doesn't like your assessment of the idea that it's double taxation. It's not, because gross production is paid at the wellhead, period.
And that's why we denied it.
That's true. But the previous owners of this knew that and what they did is they assigned the cost of this back to Delhi. That's what happened.
I don't know, all I know is.
Well, I know, because I've got numerous of them like that, where they couldn't get the easements, so they laid it under the lease, and it was not recorded. And that's why you end up with production lines that have never showed up on record, and Jerry had to go in and find them. That's the whole purpose. Most of them don't pay taxes. Now, I've pointed out.
I think that the court would figure that out.
Well, the court's not any better than we are. We're the first court.
I understand.
We've got to put this on record.
And we did, we've done all that.
Well, all we said was they own the line. That's all we said. But why did they own the line?
I don't know if that's
the
right.
question. Yes, it is. When it goes to court, it is very
I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
important.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't.
Well, that's why we've had a problem, because the lawyers don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't want to go into the depth of why this occurred.
That's why we lost a lot of salt water too.
Yes, that's exactly right. So that's why we're taking a position, we're finding the evidence to the very root of what happened here from the beginning. This was not a bad producing line, 823,000 a day. So why did Delhi not lay a line to them? You know why? Because they couldn't get an easement. So they laid it under the lease. And the people that own the lease said, okay, we'll lay the line if you reimburse us for it. And that's what happened.
So, how is that relevant to who owns the line now?
It's the history of who pays the taxes on the line.
But for 23 years at least, and probably back to 83
Yeah,
all
and
the way.
They're protesting from the time they don't want to pay taxes because they were not part of the
I
original
understand that.
assignment back to Delhi. That's the reason. And you didn't pick it up. The assessor wouldn't have picked it up, because I've got lines just like this. The assessor can't pick them up because they're laid under the lease. There's no record of it. Jerry has to go find them.
Probably all over the state.
So that's the reason why basic information available, so that now, if they go to court, the attorneys could look back to see what our position was. That's why.
If it's written down, I mean, they're not gonna take the time to listen to what we just had.
If we have a good attorney, they are.
I don't know.
They're gonna look at this thing in detail as to what's the record. Who paid? Because if the ownership of the line was paying taxes well and good from 1983 to 2019, if the ownership was paying taxes on it, well and good. But my guess is, when this company, which is a company that buys marginal wells, they're trying to get out of paying taxes on the line that everybody else in their predecessor was paying.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do.
And they're telling it, no.
So we gathered the evidence here for the attorneys to look at and say, hey, you guys come along and you're a
Yeah, okay.
scavenger company.
Figure out what you're gonna write down there.
We agree with the Corporation Commission that this is not on location, and it is subject, Jerry's documentation of it, in which they were arguing about, that they're gonna send it to court.
I only have so much, that's what you want to write. Do you agree with,
We
I
agree
would
with
say-
agree with the Corporation Commission.
Not the assessor.
yeah, you agree with her?
Agree with her, okay. Y'all want it, okay, fine.
In their evaluation of the interpretation of the Corporation Commissions. That's why we are important, to get these facts online,
An evaluation of.
so that the attorneys have to consider what we said to make our decision.
Well, we listen to task in detail each time
Yeah.
on why exactly he gives us his recommendation.
Yeah, but we have not listened before to these people's position, because when I got to them, this is, the important part was, this line was laid under the leases, not under easements. That's basically very important.
I would not
Is
argue
that
that.
right? Is that how?
I would not argue that, because nobody knows about it. If they had to cross landowners, they have to cross landowners, so
And they have to pay damage, but they don't have to pay easements.
yeah, but they probably didn't change landowners, because they're all the same section. They didn't leave the section, right?
Yeah, but they're in different quarters.
Doesn't matter. They didn't,
Well-
section spacing.
It's a 640 spacing, but there might be different landowners in here. One of the landowners or one of the mineral owners wouldn't give them an easement.
Yeah.
So that's why they laid it under the
What I
easement, the
mean
line,
is-
the lease.
And there won't be any record of that money either. Damages, there won't be any record of that. No, they don't report that.
What they're gonna report though is a different ownership. And that's why I was getting to his joint operating cost that he was asking. He was saying, I asked him, I said, do you own 100% of this well? He didn't know.
He didn't know.
Second part of that is, if they didn't own 100% of the well, he has to do a joint interest billing to the other parties. Are the other parties that he's billing, are they paying for the tax
How do
on
you
it?
research that?
Go through her records, you can find it right quick. Who owns the surface? Who owns the mineral interest? And if he owns
The
100%.
division order would not, the original division order on
Yeah,
that
or
well.
the leases.
That
Yeah.
original, we need the original division order on that well.
Well, that's just the first step. The original, if they've sold interest off, and there is non-operating parties in this operation, they're gonna get billed for this.
How do you subpoena that kind of record?
We do, we can. That's why I'm trying to to get this stuff. We're getting to a position, we could have subpoenaed this stuff for him. And we're the ones got the power.
We should.
When you send this to the attorneys, they're not gonna do this because that takes time and money. And they're gonna end up charging.
We should have asked him
Yeah,
who the
We should.
owner was, who the owners are.
I did. He said he didn't know.
Yeah, but you could have said, well, we're not going any farther until we know that.
Exactly. That's why I said to start with, we may not want to adjourn the Equalization Board till we have that done. We can still do that.
You can't
I don't think so, we're out of
get
meeting.
back to that.
We're out of
Well,
meeting.
no, we can still find evidence till July 30th.
What do you
But what I'm trying to do here is to make this convenient for the attorneys if they take it. If they don't, they're just blowing it off. We have the power to subpoena
I
some of
understand
this
that,
stuff.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that when he,
That's
I
why,
wasn't thinking, when he said he didn't know, we should have asked him. Hindsight, 2020.
This is how that needs to be done.
okay. See the records for comments, and that points it back to her. And at least gives the attorneys the option of going back and saying, look at what was discussed here. Because this guy that represented him didn't know what he was talking
He
about.
didn't know much.
It should have been accompanied. What's my objection to doing this online like that is because they don't have to present anything other than what they had right here, and they just want a yes or no from us. That's all they want, is a yes or no from us, whether we agree or not.
Right.
And it's our responsibility to dig into it and find what will help the attorneys if it goes to the next step, if they take it.
And it's because we've been winning all of these until last year.
Yeah, I know this company, this red line.
Well, that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
What I'm making is, we've been winning all these, so we haven't worried too much about it. We've been turning them down, and they didn't argue with us, we went. They went to court, and we won in court. We
Well,
lost.
that was on the Hopeton field, but we have not won. We actually lost this last one.
That last one we lost, but we've been winning them before that.
Yeah.
Or they've been not going any farther. We turned them down, and they quit, and they didn't go on to court with it.
Did we have other did you have informal protests other than the ones here, the Red Line and Patterson?
I had some informal protests.
How did you handle those? Well, what happened to Target? They usually protest.
They did an informal and we came up from the value that was agreed on last year, or that we settled on last year, and they were okay with it. So,
Okay, and our estimation was that was the income approach that they agreed on last year?
no, they look at everything.
Jerry did,
Mhm.
and you agreed to the income approach was the,
We can't talk about that here.
well, we're asking,
No, we can't.
yes, we can,
We can't
because
have new
it is our
business.
responsibility.
It's not on the, no, that's not
No,
it. It's not on the agenda.
It's our responsibility to make sure fair and equitable.
I
This is
understand that, but
this-
that's
now,
not
wait-
on the
Wait a
agenda.
minute. This is a pipeline dispute. We've had others. Our question is, have they all been treated the same?
Yes.
Okay. That's the question.
Yeah, but
That's
you
your
gotta be
answer.
careful what you do.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
it's all on the agenda,
The
we don't
open
have
meeting
new
law
business
is
especially.
got stupid. I understand your question, but it's just the way them
Yeah.
do.
All right.
Whether you like it or not, I move we adjourn.
Made and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.